Okay, let us start the class. In today's class, I am going to explain JavaScript. In JavaScript, in the previous class, we tried to understand how to handle the errors by try and catch blocks with the help of try and catch blocks. Generally, in the programming, in any language, it may be C, C++, Java, Python, any language. Whenever we write the code, the time errors will occur. Errors are two types. In the previous class, I have explained that compile errors, runtime errors. Okay. So compilation errors, they they will be found at the time of compilation, either by the interpreter, otherwise compile. At the time of compilation, I told you that checking of the code by line, by interpreter, by compilers. All the lines will be checked at a glance. Compiler will do like that, but the interpreter will check the code line by line. Okay, so they are called compilation time errors. Okay, runtime errors, what you know, after compilation. So under compilation, what happened? The code will be checked. Then after it will be converted into machine language. Okay. And then after, at the time of execution, this machine language will be fed to your microprocessor, and microprocessor will execute that code. And that time, if any errors occur, and that errors will be displayed, they are called execution error, otherwise runtime errors. Okay. So compilation, at the time of compilation, the code, whatever you write, that will be checked by your translator program. And if there is no any error, means no any bug is there, bug means error. So your code will be checked, and it will be mentioned that code is okay. Okay, that is compilation. If any error is there, it will be notified in so line of the code. The error is there. Okay, so after compilation, if there is no any error, whenever you click on that, the code will be converted into machine language, and that will be fed to the microprocessor, and microprocessor will read that code, because that only the machine language is what your 0, 0, 1 is the binary language. Okay, and it is also called the object code that will be read by microprocessor. If there is no any error, that will be executed, and that result will be given in human understandable language. Okay, because we are the human beings, we can understand English type language. Okay, that is the phenomena. One type of phenomena will be happened inside of the computer. So now come to the point how to uh, today we will try to understand cannot access a variable before initialization. Initialization means initialize means start. So if any variable is not initialized, means you have not assigned any value to that variable. So that moment, if you want to access that variable before initialization means it is not started. So here, see, let x is a variable created with the let keyword, and y is also a variable. Here x is equal to y, but no any variable is defined with a value. Then after y is assigned with a value. So then at that moment, generally what happens? So y initially is not initialized at the start, right? The beginning, y is not initialized, started with a value. So that moment you will get the error. So let us practice this code. Okay. This is what JavaScript. The total this code will be deleted. The total code will be this code window will be deleted, and we will try to find out that which type of error by this error name. Error. This is what a variable, and error dot name means which type of error, and error dot of message means see. reference error, because error dot name means that error name is reference error, and error dot message means you will get a message on the screen, cannot access Y before initialization. So this is the code written inside of your script. So that is the JavaScript code. And up to this code written inside of your body section, that is the HTML code. Okay, we will try to understand this total code. Now I want to erase the total code, and we will write the code again from the starting, right beginning. Okay, now total code, delete the total code. Now you run, because here what happened, the code with result window is empty. Now write the code like this, exclamation mark doc type, because this is what HTML document. Every web page is a document. HTML indicates that this is the HTML5 version. Now come to the body tag. Okay, body tag started. Before this, we need to write HTML. This is indicates that this is the HTML, and HTML close tag. HTML element is closed with HTML end tag. HTML started with start tag, HTML element closed. Body element started with start tag, body element closed with body end tag. Now inside of this, whatever the code we will write, that is part of your HTML. Just we will declare, we will write a H1 header element. Header element is closed. Inside of this, anything written errors. Okay, errors is our topic. How to handle errors. How to handle errors. Okay. So how to handle errors? This is a, now whenever you run, this will be displayed on the screen. This is the content written inside of your header element. Now this code is part of your HTML. If you want to style this, you need to write style under the style. Okay, style element started, style element closed, style element closed. Okay, now under this, whatever the code you write, that is part of your CSS cascading style sheet. Okay, now if you want to select this headers, if you want to select this header, total header, you need to use that header by this H1. It selects that header. Then after, if you want to write anything inside of this, okay, we need to mention like a pair. First of all, attribute of that. What is the attribute of that header? Attribute means this header has any type of, means color, background color, otherwise paragraph color. So this header has a color. So we can write that like this color. This is an attribute. Okay. Color of this is red. Okay. Now, so what happened? Now this header color will be changed. So here what we have written the code, color is an attribute and it is assigned with a value. Color is an attribute of whom? This header element. This header element will be selected with the same header element name we need to mention here. Inside of the flower braces, we need to mention one attribute. This header has how many attributes? It has color, it has a font size, it has a font, which type of font? Okay, alignment of text. Suppose if you want to align, one more attribute, text align. Okay, text align. Now for this you need to mention center. Okay, suppose if you want to align center, so text align center. Okay, no, So if it is not, this code is not uh, executed proper, that moment you need to check back the code syntax, and don't confuse and don't be panic that. So suppose if I have written the code like this, so if this code is properly not executed, so that moment what it may be center like this. Okay, that is the simple syntax error. So because of center, if you have written the center like this, so generally what happened? This is not the syntax. Syntax is what? Center means center. Okay. So this is one more text align is one more attribute of this header. Okay. And one more attribute if you want to give it, that is what? Size, font, hyphen size. Okay. So this attribute will be separated with a value, separated with column, by this column and then value. What? 20 pixel. 20 pixel. Pixel is what? Size. Now run this. This size will be changed. So the total, whatever the code you write inside of this style element, style element started with style start tag, closed with end tag. Inside of this code, whatever we write, that is part of your, what is that is your part of your CSS, cascading style sheet program. I told you that in the initial classes, whenever you want to learn, if you want to become a good web developer, we need to go through. Okay, at that moment, what happened? So value, whatever the value we will assign to this attribute. This is, as I told you, this is one attribute and it is assigned with a value. So attribute always will be separated with the column with the value. So this is what, by this what I did here, I try to select this header. So in cascading style sheet, by this every element will be selected with its name. Okay, and if I want to select the body, okay, so need body is what? Total, the body of the web page. Now the total body of the web page, total body of the web page, if I want to select, and background color, if I want to give the background color of that, background color hyphen color. Okay, so then this is the attribute of the total web page, total web page. Okay, background hyphen color. Now if I want to give yellow, okay, so now whenever you run this, the total web page will be, the background of that web page will be selected and it will be colored with yellow. So this line of code is part of your CSS. So I told you that at the initial classes, if you want to become the good web developer, if you want to become the good web developer, you must be familiar with the three languages. One is that HTML, CSS, JavaScript, three languages. So I told you that how to write the code, the HTML that will be used to design the web page, and HTML, that is a CSS cascading style sheet that will be used to style your web page, how your web page will look it, how it appears on the web page. Okay, so now then after JavaScript, if you want to write the code of JavaScript, so that must be written inside of the script. Inside of the script, script started with start tag and closed with end tag. This is the script element. So inside of the script element, whatever the code we will write, that is the part of your JavaScript. So now here our topic is what? Topic is how to handle errors. So comment, how to handle errors. Okay, errors. Errors means, as I told you that error, how to handle errors. So how to handle errors, as I told you that in any programming language, whenever we want to write the code, that moment generally maybe errors risen. So how to handle that errors? If we will not be able to handle that errors, your code will be crashed. Means, so generally what happen, if it is interpreter based programming language like your Python, so interpreter what it does, it will check line by line of code. So if error is at fifth line, so interpreter stops there. It will not go further. Okay, so your code will not be executed. Okay, at the compilation, at the time of compilation, the code will be stopped there. So to handle that, and whenever you handle the errors by try and catch blocks, that moment, if you handle that errors by try and catch blocks, that moment what happened, the code will be handled. Means, as I told you that if there is an error, so interpreter, so it will stop. If error is in the fifth line, even though it's second line, the interpreter will be stopped there. But if I manage as a programmer with the try and catch blocks, that moment what happened, that error will be handled, and that translator will go to read the further programming, further code. It will try to read the further coding. So that is the way. So now I am going to explain how to use, that is what your try and catch blocks. That is very important. So try block will be used generally. Try block. What I told you, that try block generally will be used if you feel that any error is there. If any error is there, you feel that that error line of code to be kept in the try block. That is very important. Suppose before this, I want to create some word variables. Let x is equal to y. So here the mistake what I have done here. So x, y, two variables created, but no any variable initialized. Means no any variable is defined with any value. So that moment, if I want to access that variable, so it indicates that, so this is a variable. Means if this is an error, you will not be able to access any variable which is not initialized. Okay, now what happened here, two variables created, but no any variable is assigned with any value. Then after I want to access y is equal, I have defined y is equal to 5. Y is equal to 5. That moment what happened, so that moment generally what happens, it will throw an error. So that we would like to know that which type of error it is. So here that statement in which error is there. Okay, first of all, that statement to be kept inside of this try block, inside of this try block. మా ఎవరు క్లాస్ అటెండ్ చేస్తుంది పి అంటే పోలుగంగా ఎవరబ్బాయి పోలుగంగోళ్ళ అబ్బాయా so as I told you that we are writing the code to handle the errors in the JavaScript. So as I told you that errors will be thrown in any language, not only in JavaScript. In any language, errors will be thrown. So here, let us check back that how the errors will be thrown. So these two variables, generally, if I want to access this variable, so generally one error will be rise up. See, so how, so document, if I want to access this variable, what happened? Try to understand. Document dot, I told you that in JavaScript, one method will be used, that is the mostly used JavaScript HTML method, get element by ID method. This is the predefined method of the JavaScript, okay, to display the content. Display the content. So by this method, This is the method of your mostly used JavaScript HTML method. And that is part of your document, means web page. So that's why I have used document. So now inside of this, we need to use a attribute value. That attribute value we need to define here, because that attribute, suppose it is a paragraph element. Okay, one paragraph element started here and paragraph element closed here. Okay, now what happened here? Inside of this, if you write any code, any statement, means any content that will be displayed, like what here we will write a reference errors. Topic is what today's topic is what reference errors. Okay, so whenever you click on here, so reference errors, we are able to see here why we are getting this, sir. Why we are able to see this, because this is also content part. Okay, you remove this. Okay, reference errors. So now inside of this one attribute ID that is to be passed with a value. Okay, any value that is to be assigned for this ID attribute. And here inside of this method we need to pass that value. Okay, value is was, and then after inner HTML, this is the attribute that is to be passed with what? Y. Understood that? So what happened here? So I told you that what I told you that here two variables are created and no any variable is assigned with a value, and but I want to access this y variable because y is initialized with the 5. But this y to be initialized first. Before initialization, okay, I want to access this. So that moment, what happened? Generally, see, let us see, where code is not executed here. Okay, code is not executed here. Why? Because code is not executed. You want to access that y. Okay, that y is created, and then after, if any code is there, then after any code is there, that line of code will not be executed. Understood that? So for this, if I want to know this is what, which type of error is being created, so that moment what we need to do, keep this line of code inside of your try block. Okay, inside of this, inside of try block. So, and then after, use catch block here, catch block, and inside of that one variable will be used, and that inside of this error dot name, which type of error is there, which type of error it is, and which type of message it will create. Okay, now see what it did here. Try block used, inside of that, if you feel that error will be generated, that statement to be kept, that statement to be kept. If you, whenever you feel that error will be generated, so if you feel that error will be generated, please keep that lines inside of this try block, inside of this catch block. So this variable generally holds the error name, that error details. Error details means name, that error name. మా క్లాస్ జరుగుతుంది, నేను తర్వాత ఫోన్ చేస్తాను, సరేనా? ఓకే ఓకే. So this a variable will hold all the error details. Means what is the error name and which type of message it will, which type of message will be thrown. Okay, so that moment these two will be called try catch blocks. They will be called part of your error handling. Okay, try in any language, even the Java also, we will use try catch blocks. We will use try catch blocks. So then after you create one more variable, that is what, any keep any variable. This variable will hold, this variable will hold that error details. You simply write this like error dot name. Okay, this variable, error variable will hold whatever the error name and error message, error dot message. So what happened here? This text variable I have created, this will hold this error name and error message. So whenever you pass that variable text here, so it is that error name and error message that is to be displayed on the screen. That moment we need to check back that. Okay, that is very important. Huh? So this moment what happened, whenever I click on this run button, so the code is to be executed and the result must be displayed on the screen. But here I am not able to see any result is not being displayed. So that moment we need to check back that if I have written the codes, any syntax errors are there, any syntax errors, any, if you know any syntax errors, please check back your code. See, this is what two variables are created and no any variable is defined with any value. And then one more variable created, it is assigned with the 5. Okay. So now generally at this time, what happens? Error to be generated because you before initialization of any variable. Okay, so that moment error generated that will be displayed on the screen. So now that error name and error message they have added to this, assigned to this variable, text variable. So on that text variable passed to this get element by id method, and I told you that this get element by ID method, it is the mostly used JavaScript HTML method, which will be used to find the HTML element by this attribute. Okay. If generally what happened, what it did here, you have passed this value. So by this value, wherever this value, this method will try to find out that element. This attribute is kept in your P element. So here we have written what? We have written if any content here, any content like this, that will be displayed. Why? Because this method will try to find out the HTML element where this attribute is here. This attribute is kept, this value assigned to this attribute ID, and that ID is kept inside of this P element. And this method will try to find, or get element by ID method will try to find out that element. So in that element, whatever the content is there, that will be displayed by this method. So content is what? This is the content. So that you remove this content. So this element will not go here. And see, Now we need to get the message errors. Okay, so that moment, if the code is not executed, you need to check back the syntax errors. So inside of this catch block, so this variable created, no need here, this statement, you keep this variable here. Okay, you create this variable text. Okay, now what happened? So this line of code is no need here. Why? Because catch block should handle that. Try block will hold the statements in which error will be risen, and catch block will catch that errors. Catch block will catch that errors. So let text is error dot name and error dot message. So this catch block will catch the errors and that will be stored in this variable. Understood that? So you remove this, and then after, see, this code you have written outside of this catch block, outside of this catch block. So you keep this code cut and you keep this code inside of the catch block. Understood that? Now run. Still you are not getting, still you are not getting what? The result. Error. You are not able to get any, you are not able to get any error name, any error message. So that moment you need to check back that if any syntax error, again you need to check that. Like that, you need to be so patient. Okay, with the patience, you need to check back why my code is not being executed, any mistakes I have done. You need to check back very patiently. Otherwise, okay. So see what happened. Now you are getting the, that is error is what, reference error and cannot access y before initialization. You are getting this. So what happened? What the mistake you have written? Simple mistake that is called minor syntax errors. Here, this by this plus, I have done what? I have kept comma here. So that's why you, that error name and that error message, nothing you are getting, because only this comma. That is the syntax errors. Okay. So if you will not be able to find the, your code is not executed, that moment you need to check back the material. If you have any material, that material you will find through so many websites are there: w3schools.com, java.tpoint.com, geeks4geeks.com. So many are there. So you can go there and you can check back how to write the syntax. Okay. And you need to practice. In programming, what happens, you need to practice continuously. Read the theory and practice the code. Read the theory, practice, practice, practice. By that, you can improve your coding. So only by this comma, your code is not executed. So here we need to keep what? Plus, simple plus. So whenever you run now, so here what happened? That mistake what we have done here, two variables are created but no any variable is defined with any, assigned with any value, and then after y is assigned with a value. So that moment this line of code kept in try block, because I told you the try block will be used in Python. This is what in Python, Java also, to handle the errors. Try block, what we do, that statements to be kept inside of the try block where you feel that errors will be thrown. Okay, errors will be risen. Catch block will catch up that errors. Okay, and that errors will be displayed and they will be stored in this variable. Okay, if you keep this variable any, suppose x, So then what you need to change this as, so if you run this, you will not get anything because this variable is X. This will hold the error. So you need to change them as X. You run this, you will get. So this variable generally they will mention because error. Okay. That is what you know. Okay. Any variable name you can keep here. That variable will hold the error name, okay, and error message. So if generally if this code kept means before this, what happened? Y is defined. Y is defined with a value, and then you want to say here X is equal to Y. That moment, what happened? If you run this, there is no any error. Why? Because already Y is equal to 5. You have defined and you have initialized the Y. You have initialized the Y with a value, and then you have mentioned let X is equal to Y. Then after, now you want to use this document here. If you want to mention Y is equal, okay, you want to access the Y value. Okay, that Y is not displayed here. Okay, so if without this try block, once see what happened here, you keep this total code comment, okay, and this is also comment, this is also under comment. Now what happened, there is no any try block, okay. So only one variable is created, that is what, let Y is equal to 5. Okay. Only one variable is created, that is Y is equal to 5. Now I have passed Y for this inner HTML attribute. Okay. That moment we need to get that value. Be simple. Why? Because this Y has whatever the value we have passed for this Y, because Y is initialized with a value 5. So now I want to get that value. So now this value Y has 5, that is to be displayed. Okay. See, now what happened here? The value of Y 5 that is displayed on the screen. If you keep in front of this any string, okay, value of Y is, so now you will, value of Y is 5. Understood that? So what we did here, Y is assigned with a value. Y is assigned with a value. But whenever you have assigned with a value, so this method will display that value because you have passed the Y to inner HTML attribute. Okay. But now if you write like this, Y is equal to X, that moment you will not get anything. Why? Because your code is not able to handle the errors. Error occurs here. Error occur here. That error is what? Reference error. Reference error means you have not assigned any variable with a value. Understood that? So that moment, so like what you know, then if you have not mentioned, you have not assigned any value to Y, any X variable or Y variable, that moment we need to write, we need to keep this code inside of try block, inside of this try block, because we know that, we know that this line of code generates an error. So that line of code must be kept inside of that try block, and catch block will be used to find out that, to display that error. The syntax is like this. So here we need to do, we need to display that error. So error dot name, what is the name of that error, and plus what is the error message. Okay, understood that. Now, so then after this statement, this display method, it is to be kept inside of this catch block. If you want to, if you want to get this line of code cut and you keep inside of this catch block. Okay. Now, for this, what you know, we need to do one thing. This statement, error dot name, error dot, it is to be assigned for any variable. You create any variable. So why? Because that variable, whatever the name of the error and error message, they will be stored in this variable, and that variable I will pass here. Okay. Now you run this code. So what is this? You are getting the reference error is what? Reference error, and X is not defined. Because only we have written here Y is equal to X. But neither the X value nor the Y value we have defined. So it is a reference error. In the previous class, I told you that reference error is what? If you have not defined any variable with a value, so then that error is called reference error. And but what we are getting here, this both reference error and X is not defined, both are mingled. So what we need to do here, we need to keep one line break here. One line break. Okay, understood that. So this line break, what it does, it will break the lines. It will break the lines. Here we can change the string as per your. So here we can state, we can write here errors are. So errors are what? So errors are what? Reference error, X is not defined. So this is called type of error. So we will write here, we will keep a string here. We will keep type of, we will keep it, we will keep a string here, type of error. Okay, we will keep a string. So whenever you run, see, type of error is reference error. No need of this errors are okay. See, type of error is equal to reference error. And X is not defined. Message is what? Before this, we will keep a string type of message. Type of message. This is a string. This is a string. Okay, type of message. Okay, that string, whatever the string you want to display on the screen. So type of error is equal to reference error, type of message X is not defined. So like that, we can handle the errors by try and catch blocks. Okay, that is very important. Try and catch blocks will be used in the programming. They will be used in the programming to handle the errors. Okay.